Morning, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone. We're really glad to have you join our session today for Parsec's weekly webinar series. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m., we bring together voices from education to share what's working in their world to hopefully spark a new idea that you can bring back to yours. For the next 30 minutes, we have 3 rules. One is to enjoy the conversation. We have a really amazing speaker today. Number 2 is to walk away with at least one new insight, one new learning that you could take away to your school or charter school or district. And then number 3 is to make a meaningful connection. My name is Shay Alwasani. I'm the community manager here at Parsec, and we really want this webinar to be interactive and a conversation. So please feel free to share questions in the chat as we go. Turn on your mic and show your beautiful faces, and we'll have a really good time. So last week we were joined by Dr. Ramiro, who is the superintendent of Los Nietos School District. He shared activities that he brought to his district that helped with attendance and suspension rates, but also really helped family engagement. And we do have the recording on YouTube, so if you guys do want to check out last week's webinar, it will be there. And then next week, we're super excited to share what is next in our Parsec live series. We're kicking off a new series with Dr. Angie Barfield, which is all about the power of harmful language. So there'll be 3 sessions through October and November. And throughout the session, she'll be sharing just guiding us to recognize and respond to languages that impact students every day. And so next week, the session kicks off at 10 a.m. So feel free to join us and bring a friend. And then on February 4th of next year, we are hosting our Measure What We Value Summit at the Elite event venue in Fresno, California. The summit is going to bring together educators, leaders, and partners to explore how we can make better, use data to shape strategy and student success. And so we have 3 tracks for content, which will be governance, student voice, and then our Parsec workshops, which are focused on our products, so like real and analytics. So there's something for every role. And so we only have 24 tickets left. So you can visit Parsec Summit to purchase your ticket today. And Kim will be putting the URL in the Slack channel or Zoom chat. And then before we get into our webinar, I want to take some time just to shout out any of our first-time guests. If you are new to our weekly webinar series, do you guys mind just putting a 1 in the chat so we can show you all some love? We're glad to have everyone here. Hi, Liz. Welcome. All right, and with that, I'm thrilled to announce today's speaker, Dr. Liz Norton. She is president and founder of Incessantly Relentless Leadership, and she is the force behind the AI Education Summit. She is a former Tennessee state and district leader, and she's led major initiatives in literacy, instructional materials, and innovative school models. Today, she's going to bring her systems level expertise to help everyone on this webinar be able to build bold strategies for AI adoption that drive equity and instructional excellence. She is an amazing consultant, a coach, and a speaker, and she really equips leaders to lead boldly at the intersection of innovation, policy, and practice. We are very excited to have her on today's webinar, and Dr. Liz Norton, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you, Shay. That was a great introduction. I do want to make sure I do share. Oh, it's not letting me click, Shay. The summit. So I have been spending the last few months prepping this AI Education Summit, which is designed for leaders to really help us think about how we build our awareness around AI and then move that into action. So if you are in Tennessee or you know someone in Tennessee, this summit is for you. And if you are not, please reach out if you want a summit like this in your state. We'd be happy to look at how we can take this other places. But I consider myself really a lead learner when it comes to AI. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're seeing teachers use AI, how you can use AI in your own leadership, and then how you set your school or your district up to make really smart choices when it comes to AI. So when we think about leading in this space, it's really important that we dive into the systems, the structures, the processes that we can put in place to sort of take us through the long haul, because AI is going to keep changing. We're going to be in a constant state of things changing and things improving. And so now is the time to lay that strong foundation for change management and for innovation. Um, there we go. All right. So I come to this space really just open-minded in terms of what I can learn about AI, what I can share, and from what I'm learning. The summit has given me an opportunity to really talk to a lot of people who are engaging with AI right now, from researchers to practitioners. And so I want to be able to share as much as I can what I'm learning and what we can take from that into our daily practice. So what's happening when it comes to AI? First, I want you to meet my grandma. My grandma, Faye, she passed away in 2013, but she really considered herself a trendsetter. So she used to tell me this story when World War II was happening. She was working in a manufacturing company that made airplanes. And the company was so large, the facility was so large that she had to ride a bicycle to do her job. She had to deliver messages across the manufacturing floor. And so, because she had to ride a bicycle every day, she started wearing pants. And she would claim that she was the first woman ever to wear pants in New Orleans. And that's sort of the spirit she brought to everything. She was the first person in my family to have a Facebook page. She had one before I did. And she really was an early adopter in all things tech. And so I tell you about my grandma because as I was looking at new tech tools, there was one in particular that made me think about her. So you can see in this picture, that's my grandfather on the wall behind her. And when he passed, a very special piece of artwork took up residence in my grandmother's bathroom. Let me see if I can get this slide to move so you can see it. We're gonna hold the suspense, Shay. It was Burt Reynolds. Now, if you are unfamiliar with Burt Reynolds' famous Vanity Fair spread, I am sorry I'm not sharing it with you today. Do not look it up on your work computer. Wait till you get home. But that is what took up residence in her bathroom, prominently displayed. And she would be horrified that I'm telling you this, I am sure. But I thought about that when I found 11 Labs. So 11 Labs has this new technology where they will use AI to read anything to you in any voice. Shay, if you can move to the next slide. So 11 Labs, one of the voices that you can choose is Burt Reynolds' voice. His family actually agreed that his voice could be used within the tech. And so you can go in, you can choose Burt Reynolds' voice. Shay, if you'll click play, we'll be able to hear a little bit of it. But you can see there's a voice selection over to the right side on the 11 Lab site. You put whatever text you want it to read. You can just copy and paste it in. And then you go down to the bottom and you can click play. And it will read to you in any voice you choose. There are lots of different.
My grandma would have been so incredibly excited to have Bert reading her mail or her books to her.
And so when I saw that, I was like, Grandma would be all in on AI. The other thing that I saw, and Shay, if you'll move to the next slide, is my grandmother hated cooking. She cooked everything from a can. When my mom and dad first got married, my family on my mom's side cooked everything from scratch. They grew their own garden. They, shucked their own beans. And so my great grandmother had told my mother my dad was gonna leave her if she kept cooking those beans from the can. But that's all he'd ever had. And so what I learned you can do with chat that my grandma would also think is really cool is you can take a picture of your pantry, of your fridge, and you can say, make me a weekly menu of all the things, using only things that you see in my pantry or in my fridge. Please disregard the state of my pantry and fridge in these pictures. But you can see I used it and it gave me a whole weekly menu. At the end of that chat, it also gave me a shopping list with the things it didn't see in my pantry that I would need to complete the meal. Grandma would be fascinated by that. And there are lots of insanely cool tools. Shay, if you'll click to the next slide, this is a market map of all of the tools that are available in AI in the education space. So this comes from EdTech Insiders, and they actually told me they have a brand new one coming out that's going to have even more tools on it. So I don't know if it has been released since the time I texted them to now, but be sure to check it out because you can learn a lot about all of the different tools and the different use cases that they fall under. But this is just to note the market is bursting with tools. There are tons of different tools that can help us with teacher professional learning. They can help us with student support. They can help teachers lesson plan. And what is neat about these tools and important about the tools is that they do something that our general LLMs do not, right? Like our chat GPTs and our Claudes. And that is that they create guardrails. And so with AI tools, you get additional guardrails in terms of safety, you get data privacy measures that are put in place, and you'll also see tools that curate. So they'll use a specified set of data to feed the LLM and make sure that what you're getting then is more tailored to your needs, your context, and the things that you believe are high quality. And so when we think about tool selection, it's really important for us to understand sort of the difference between an LLM and some of these other tools that are using added technologies like RAG to set those guardrails and confine the data that it's pulling from. So there's a lot to learn and unpack there, but just wanted to say there are lots of options available on the market. Shay, if you'll click to the next one. So I'd love to hear from you all. What tools are you using? What are their strengths? What are their limitations? What are you using outside of a general LLM? So if you want to type that in the chat or if you want to come off mute and share, I'd love to hear.
I'll jump in. I'm Tim from Alder Grove Charter School in Eureka, California, and I'm a kind of new user of AI. So I use it for some basic tasks like speeding up the process of writing memos, emails, letters of recommendation. Sometimes I ask it advice on how to deal with a HR situation, but I always double check it because sometimes they lie.
Yep. Yeah, so those the types of tools you're using, Tim, are probably those general LLMs. And so the reason why that checking is so important is that they are just using predictive text to build that out. So that's where tools with those guardrails come in helpful. So if you think about a teacher using a similar technology to build a lesson plan or refine an IEP, those guardrails help you make sure that the information they're getting back and the predictive text is built off the content you would want it to build from, if that makes sense. So it reduces those hallucinations. Anyone else using a cool tool?
Hi, everyone. My name is Kong. I'm the web content engineer at Ridley College. One of the tools I use, especially for meetings, is Firefly. It does transcript, it does meeting note taking, records videos. It's very helpful to kind of get insight for my stakeholders who need to know more information or they just need to know key information. But one of the really cool tools I use for AI is I do have, Cloud Code and some of the other AI assisted coding tools that help me do accessibility checks. Just because sometimes it's really hard to train others on making documents and web content accessible. And so I do kind of have my own little AI tool that helps double check all those content and alternative texts. It helps make my life easier, and it's also really easy for teaching other faculty or team members on how to use those tools to make their life easier.
I love that. That's a great example. And one that a lot of people could probably use. Anyone else? All right, well, we'll keep trucking, and if something comes to mind, please do drop it in the chat so we can see what else you're using. But there are some use cases that I want to make sure that we're aware of when it comes to AI. And again, these extend beyond just those general LLMs into tools that also integrate other technology into them. But the first one is lesson planning, right? AI can help teachers lesson plan much more quickly and efficiently. This is especially helpful if that lesson planning is pulling from the teacher's high quality instructional materials. And so there are guardrails around that curriculum. It can help tailor student-specific feedback. It can help teachers differentiate material for individual students. It can help teachers to address multilingual issues. I particularly like that ability to help translate text. So when we think about family outreach, there are a lot of potential uses there. Assessment creation, IEP and accommodation supports. Shay, on that next slide, there we go. There are a few more. Real-time teaching aids, parent and family communication. Tim, similar to what you mentioned, right? Drafting those communications and helping format responses back. AI can serve as student coaches and partners. It can help teachers sort of spark ideas for projects or project-based learning. And it can help plan for PLCs or summarize PLC notes. There are so many different use cases that it's really important for us as leaders to think about how we're shaping those use cases in alignment with the vision and the direction that we want to take our school. And so USDOE recommends that we keep teachers in the loop when it comes to the decisions we're making around the tools they're going to have access to, the way they use those tools, and what we learn from those tools. So they have 3 ways to think about. One is making sure that teachers are in the loop in those moment-to-moment decisions of the work of teaching. So not giving that away to an AI assistant or an AI teacher. The second is in the preparation, planning, and reflection on teaching. And so when we think about an AI's ability to generate lesson plans, it's really important that we make sure we're keeping that human in the loop and that teacher in the loop to make sure that that instruction is meeting our standard of quality. And then the last way is in the selection of the tools that we're going to use. So when you think about keeping teachers in the loop, are there ways that you all are already including teachers in the decision-making when it comes to AI tool selection? And if you're not a teacher, your staff or your team in the selection of AI tools that you might use more broadly?
Hi, I'm just gonna speak from this from the college perspective. I think one of the really important things to include faculty, in my case for college, faculty professors, when they make choices, is they have the right data. I think that's really important. So, for example, when they're going to choose a certain course or they're going to decide to do something else, having that tool, whether it's AI or not, having that database or data set used to make those choices is essential to shaping, the curriculum for students, for faculty, and overall in general. I think one of the key features is you got to go talk to those teachers, in my case, faculty, when they want to use or implement certain tools and talk with them on, hey, for example, they want to improve student success. And so one of the things we do is, hey, give me your content, give me your teaching content. Let's go look at the industry record and standards, and let's see at your past results, if students are failing here or they're having problems at this certain set of course material that they keep failing here, and we can probably redesign this to make a better tool. So this is kind of like my answer to this. I know it might not be relevant.
No, I love that. I think it is relevant because one of the important things that you said there, and I'll sort of rephrase it, when you talk about making sure you're bringing in the data and looking at sort of the current state, is making sure that we're choosing AI tools that are going to solve real problems, right? And so if we ground the selection in our data and something we need to solve for, that's going to help us choose the tools we really need and not maybe the shiny, coolest new thing, right? Which is what my grandma would have really loved, the shiniest new thing. And then Melissa, I saw you put in the chat that you have a committee. I think committees and advisory boards are a great way to make sure that we're keeping teachers in the loop and engaging them in that decision making. And I'll share a little bit too after we talk about some of the ways that leaders can use tools. A way to really think about how we engage teachers all the way down to piloting in the classroom. As a way to make sure that they're really involved in that decision making and that we're learning along the way. So some other things to think about in terms of AI use is what we can do with it as leaders, and what other leaders in your organizations can do with it. And I think this connects really strongly to the examples that you all already gave of some of the ways that you've been using AI. And that's strategic planning and calendars. Although I'll be honest, I tried an AI assistant to help with my calendar and I couldn't handle it. I turned it off in like 10 minutes. It was driving me crazy. And then the other ways that you can use it is meeting and staff communications. One of the folks at our summit, Brett Rower, he talks about how he uses AI to capture notes from folks. So especially for shout outs in his newsletters, is just recording from other folks who needs to be shouted out and then using those recordings to generate a first draft of his weekly newsletters. Same for family and community communication. You can use AI to help you craft communications, to put it in certain reading levels, or to really connect with certain communities. For instructional leadership and high quality instructional materials, there are lots of opportunities to think about using AI to help you plan those PDs or calendar those PDs, to help you structure your PLCs for teachers. When it comes to MTSS attendance and student support, lots of opportunities to really think about how we use AI to help us analyze data and draw conclusions around what's happening in our districts and in our schools. Parsec certainly on top of this with really helping us elevate student voice and elevate teacher voice and be able to pull from that data to have real-time insights into what's happening in our schools and in our districts. Shay, I think there are a few more on the next slide. So operations and logistics, from writing safety briefs to producing inventory tallies and helping you keep things organized. There's HR implications, there are safety and crisis implications, there are finance, there are all kinds of things that we can do with AI. I think this goes back to what was said earlier. It's all about making choices that are grounded in our data and grounded in our real-time problems. So I think I have one more set of questions for us. But when we think about how do we make those choices from all of the tools that are out there, some suggestions I have. One is start small, really think about that problem you're trying to solve. The second is pilot thoughtfully. Use teachers, leaders who are doing the real work, trying to solve the real problems, to try the tools out and run small PDSA cycles to help you analyze, interpret, and understand what it will take to make that AI tool work for you in real time. Track those results so that you can scale what works, rather than choosing a tool to go scale all at once. So think about that, start small. And then what problems are you all trying to solve? And are there ways that you think this piloting approach or PDSA approach might be helpful? I have always joked that I am extraordinarily good at wait time. I made Kimberly laugh with that one.
That is my biggest struggle, Liz. Anyone that's the webinar knows, I never give them enough time to think. I'm always like, come on, someone answer me now.
Uncomfortable wait time is where I live. Thank you, Melissa. Oh, you're struggling to find funding for AI solutions. Yeah, funding's a big issue across the board, I think, right now, especially with funding being so up in the air when we think about Title I and Title II. But I think that's also an important reason, Melissa, to start small, right? If you're trying it out, you can make sure that you're making a case for that funding need, right? So when I think about taking a request for an AI tool to like a local school board, I want to make sure that I have that data that speaks to the way this tool is going to solve my problem. And the best way to get the most relevant and context specific data is through running those small PDSA cycles. Thanks, Melissa.
I'll chime in a little bit here. I really like the first question. I think the second question might be a little bit harder, but I think one of the misconception with education with AI that is that some people think it's supposed to accelerate growth, but sometimes it actually helps find interventions. So, for example, one great thing I think to that would help solve some of the education sector is if we can use AI as a baseline for what's a performing linear section for students to be growing at, and then seeing some students stagnate or actually declining in their education journey to help capture, hey, you know what? If we can use AI to capture those details, maybe we can give them to ABA or school psychologists to help intervene when students are falling behind. I think the second question on how you can engage students, I mean, teachers and leaders in piloting AI tools is kind of difficult because I don't know if there's like a certain AI tool that can solve certain things yet. So, Liz, I think you made
Yeah.
such a great point where if we could define what we're trying to solve first, then we can decide which AI tool to use, right? Because AI is just so generalized that you might have one tool that maybe a leader wants to push to use for everything. In reality, it's only really good for one section, right? So I think if we can kind of educate teachers on this, it would really help vouch on, hey, this is my needs. And then you can have certain leaders or faculty members reach out on what they can pivot.
Yep, great points. All right, Shay, I'll kick it back to you.
Wow. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for sharing like all your insights, your learnings with everyone. I'm sure that everyone is walking away with something new that they can take back. And for everyone who is on the webinar, we will be sending a copy of Liz's presentation so you can always reference it back. Before we wrap up, I just want to share something special that we're having for our partners to help you elevate student, community, and parent voice. We have our small LEA special, where up to 3 schools can access unlimited real projects, also have onboarding, and then have an in-person workshop. The deal runs through December of this year. And if you have any information or if you have any questions or want to learn more, you can email us at hello@parseceducation.com, which I believe our wonderful Kimberly is putting in the chat for you guys. And then just as another reminder, we're kicking off our harmful language series next Wednesday with Dr. Angie Barfield. So bring a friend or your team. And with that, thank you everyone for joining us on our Wednesday weekly webinar series. I hope that you guys all have an amazing rest of your day and week, and we'll see you all next week at the same time.